we have a heavy hitter coming your way in October. The next SOP, the Shop Owners Panel, is going to be about politics. More specifically, local politics and your municipalities. So if you had a flinch there, a moment of like a high blood pressure, it's okay. We're not talking national politics. We're talking local politics. Because if you've ever tried to expand your shop, add bays, parking, signage, you already know about the red tape, about the possibility of the red tape being quite brutal. Some towns will roll out the welcome mat, others will fight you every step of the way. And we're going to dig into how shops have been handling zoning boards, permits, fire marshals, inspectors, all the things that you can kind of slow your growth goals to, well, to a crawl. And we're going to have shop owners who have stood in front of their townships or their counties and to try to explain why they need these things and what they're trying to accomplish. We're going to tell you their stories. Politics matters because every single one of us outgrows our current footprint if we're trying to grow and improve. And if you don't think about it ahead of time, then you're going to be in the middle of an expansion fight and you're already behind, right? Let's get ahead of it. Let's actually look towards November and make sure that you are going to be a part of voting in this supposedly off year. That's just one thing that really irks me, calling this election season, this election year, an off year because it's not a national election. It kind of sets the stage of people not bothering to vote. But the reality is this election should be more critical, especially if you're a small business owner, especially if you're an auto repair shop, because there are some that are pro small business and some who are anti auto repair shop. And so make sure that you have the people that you want to have. I've talked to shop owners who are a big fan of not allowing other repair shops in. That goes kind of against some of the pure market capitalism type approach. But at the same time, if that's you, then that's what you can vote for. But make sure that you do that. Make sure that you vote. Make sure that you're voting for the common sense thing. And I don't want to, let me get off my soapbox here and just talk a little bit more about that panel and them telling those stories. I think you're going to be intrigued by the stories. They've all had significant experiences, and they're going to talk to you about it at length. So stay tuned, check it in, make sure that you're subscribing to our YouTube channel or to the Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure that you're hitting that notification bell and that you are going to get notified when that comes out in the middle of October. Then we're going to get into the details of your shop in November. The topic, we've talked about this, we've touched on it a couple of different times with shop owner panels about coaching or about conferences, or most recently about the succession planning back in August of 2025. And one of the things I realized while I was listening to that group was so many shops have no idea where to start on how to build a process document, how to build a real set of standard operating procedures so that your shop doesn't fall apart the moment that you step away. So we're going to cover where to start, how to make it usable, and how to actually tackle that. We're going to have people who are in the middle of doing it, who have done it, and people who are just getting started on it to talk about their experiences. Again, that's the purpose of the shop owner panel. It's not to give you a 1, 2, 3 step. It's so that you can hear real stories, real experiences of other shop owners. All right. And so maybe what we'll do after that episode, we'll have a vendor insights panel, kind of giving you a step-by-step instruction. And that's what we did this past episode, or this current shop owners panel that we're going to be talking to you about in this live broadcast, about the panel that actually dropped earlier today about credit card processing and whether or not, more specifically, whether or not to pass those fees on to your customers. So we had these 3 awesome topics: whether or not to pass credit card fees, how to be involved in your local politics or municipality so that it helps your shop and not hurts your shop, and then actually how to build your document process, your processes and whatnot for your shop. And so stay tuned and listen to the vendor insights that's going to be dropping out later this week, talking about the dual pricing matrix from people who actually are in the credit card space and business. Have you ever passed credit card fees to your customers, or have you ever fought City Hall over your shop? Drop it in the chat. Put fees, put politics, put municipality. Tell us your story. right? And I'd be glad to hear from you and add you to the mix. All right. So without further ado, and after I take a sip of water, by the way, I forgot to say this. Welcome to the Garage Grit Live. And I'm Brad Herlock with AA Shop Marketing. And I say this every single week. You've heard it multiple times. I'm not a coach. I'm a marketer. And that's an important distinction. I do not run your shop. I'm going to help grow it. Today's live is about something every shop wrestles with eventually: credit card fees. Do you eat them as a cost of doing business, or do you pass them to your customers? And when I ask it that way, almost every single shop gives me an answer right away. Well, back up. How about if you listen to the stories of 3 different shop owners? All right. For some shops, it's not a small number, right? It's $40K a year off the net. For others, it's a matter of keeping margins clean or making sure that you're not bleeding dry. At the end of this live, I've got a story for you as well that you're not going to want to miss. It's about a shop owner who tied marketing operations together in a way that shops often forget and overlook. And it changed their entire bottom line. I'm going to say that for later. For now, I want you to hear from you. Tell me where you're listening in from. Shop name, city, and just put that in the chat. You can talk to me about what your biggest pain point is, whether it's people, processes, or the tech side of things, the software side of things, or maybe it's marketing. What is giving you your biggest pain? What is giving us what's on your radar right now? What's on your whiteboard? All right, let's go into the podcast that dropped just earlier today. Last week, I sat down with Lou of Lou's Car Care and Fleet Services up in New York, Kevin of Millivoi's Tire and Automotive outside of Philly, Mitchell of Maple Garage in Denver. And these guys laid it out all on the table about how they feel and their experiences about dual pricing and credit card fees. Lou's running a 16 bay shop, and he's one of those shops that are watching 40K walk out the door to the credit card processing. He's super analytical. He spreadsheets everything, and he had it broken down as far as what the cost of his credit card fees are per ticket. His take: know your numbers before you think about changing your policy. And sometimes these numbers are important to look at, but also might not be the biggest thing that needs changing in your organization. Kevin's shop is a 5-bay setup, and what stuck with me was he said nobody prepares for a water pump. He's talking about how the customer's already stressed, right? And they're shelling out the dollars for this repair that they hadn't planned, and he just felt that tacking on a fee at the very, very end was insult to injury. His philosophy: bake it into your costs and leave that price bake it into your cost so that it's in the initial price, and leave that customer with a final clean impression. Now, the podcast is coming out later this week where we talk to people in the credit card processing space. They had something to say exactly to that thought process. And so that's also worth a listen. Again, the goal isn't for me to tell you, you must do this or you must do that. The goal from these panels is for you to listen in and think how it applies to you so that you can take the next step forward for you, for your shop. Now, you've got Mitchell as well, and he was running Maple Garage, like I said, with 12 bays. He's younger than the rest of us were on that podcast, and he's managing a rebuild phase. The shop passes the fee along, but they fold it into the shop fees. So the customers don't see it as a separate line item. And from his perspective, most younger customers don't even flinch. They just want their car back. And so we talked a little bit about the age demographics of your customer base. And I've heard people tell me that, all of my customers are over the age of 60. And, what jumped into my mind was, oh my goodness, how badly do you need marketing? Maybe your shop isn't all that healthy if the average age of your customer is over 65. You might need some younger customers soon because they're not all going to be driving in 20 years or 10 years even. Who knows? So everyone's a little bit different. And so marketing comes into play there. I like to see a nice large balance, nice span of customer age demographics when I look at a shop. I think that's healthier. But these three perspectives were rather different, and that's exactly what you need to hear when you're listening to this conversation. We cover the average repair orders. We cover state by state legal. We touch on state by state legal rules, customer psychology, how point of sale systems like TechMetric can kind of change your decision making tree. Go watch the full episode on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Garage Grit, or maybe add Brad Herlock to that same search. You're going to find it. You'll hear Lou, you'll hear Kevin, you'll hear Mitchell go way deeper than I can summarize here. And I'm just curious. It's on a slightly different note, but we touched on it almost every single time I have one of these podcasts. How does your shop handle DVIs? Do you and how do you handle those inspections and those trust building moments? Do you spell out every fee, or do you just kind of keep it bundled? Are you, on another note, I'm very interested to hear from you, is 3% what everyone is mostly charging? I mean, Mitchell was charging 5% on shop fees, because again, he was including the credit card part of it into it. What are you doing for shop fees? So you can post that in there as well. Happy to hear from you. Okay. Right on the AA Shop Marketing website, it says it very plainly: more clicks, more calls, more customers. But that last part, more customers, isn't just about marketing. It does tie into your operations. I'm going to tell you a story about a shop in Texas that we've been working with for several months. Well, 7, 8 months. And we were growing their visibility. We were watching the calls numbers climb. We were watching the clicks climb. Every metric on the marketing side continued to climb and continued to look better than the previous month. But here's the rub. The owner kept telling me the revenue wasn't growing. So we dug a little bit deeper. On our side, the leads were there. The phones were ringing. The pipeline was filling. But inside the shop, the staff, as it turns out, had a lousy attitude. I kind of would notice that, because when I called the shop asking for the owner, I hoped that I would not get a particular person or two to answer who was going to answer the phone. Their whole mindset was to minimize the ticket and not maximize the value. Customers weren't being fully informed. Rather, they were being walked through what their vehicle. They weren't being walked through what their vehicle actually needed. So the attitudes weren't converting calls to appointments. Their appointments weren't converting well to well-informed and happy customers. Did you follow that? One more time. What I'm saying is, because of their lousy attitude, because of their approach, customers were not being well-informed. They were not being walked through what their customers actually needed, what their vehicles actually needed. So their attitudes, when the calls came in, weren't converting those calls to appointments. When the appointments did happen, those appointments weren't being converted to well-informed and happy customers. Eventually, this owner made a hard move and took a deep breath and rebooted his staff. He brought in people with a more positive, friendlier attitude, service advisors who actually explained what was going on with each car, techs who cared about communicating about the whole picture, and seemingly overnight, the experience flipped. Customers weren't being sold more. They were being educated more. And when that happens, the average repair order is going to naturally climb. From that point forward, the revenue finally matched the marketing momentum. Calls and clicks kept climbing, and now the shop was actually cashing in. They've been blowing it up ever since, not in a bad way. The revenue growth has been continuing to climb. And that's the connection that every shop owner needs to understand. Good marketing is going to drive qualified clicks and qualified calls. That's our job here at AA Shop Marketing for auto repair shops. But if you're a shop operations, the way your people handle those calls with those customers determines whether or not you turn that attention into real dollars. Now, let me be clear. You don't need to have your operations perfected before you start your marketing efforts. You don't want to have your operations perfected before you start your marketing efforts. If the phone never rings, it doesn't matter how tight your processes are. You need the visibility. You need the calls. The additional calls coming in is what gives you the breathing room to continue to tighten those processes. Once you've got those calls coming in, you get to work on the inside, because marketing plus operations is the only equation that's going to grow your shop sustainably. If you want to see how the marketing and the operations intersect your shop, or if you just want to talk about how we're going to grow the visibility and can get more clicks and get more calls to your shop, hit the link in the bio for AA Shop Marketing Next Step Analysis. What's the one takeaway from this story that you can apply to your shop this week? Drop that in the chat as well. All right, let's wrap it up. 3 big ideas. First, what's coming? Shop Owners Panel on Politics in October of 2025. And then in November, the SOP Shop Owner Panel is going to be about your process documentation, where to start, how to build that so that you don't have to be tethered to the desk or your shop. These are can't miss topics that you, and so if you're trying to grow, if you're trying to improve your shop, you need to continue to listen in. All right. And then the second topic that we talked about today was the most recent podcast, the most recent panel with Lou, Kevin, and Mitchell. Thanks to those guys. I really appreciated your time and their takes and experiences on passing credit card fees on to customers and how that lives in everyone's mind. Go listen live, or so go listen right now on the Garage Grit podcast. The episode is up there for you to listen to. Last but not least, if you didn't catch it, dial this back. You've got to check out that story for the shop in Texas. Plenty of calls, plenty of clicks, no growth until they fix their staff and their customer communication. That's where the marketing momentum finally turned into real revenue. And that's the lesson. Marketing and operations have to work together. I'll say it again. I'm not a coach. I have a lot of relationships with a lot of coaches, and I can find you, maybe I can find you one that actually is a good fit for you. But we're digital marketing. We're going to increase the clicks. We're going to increase the calls for your auto repair shop. And my goal here isn't to tell you how to run your shop, but I want to make as much information as possible available to you so that you can improve, so that you can grow, so that where you can see where operations and marketing can overlap and how you can make it work together instead of being tethered to your shop and barely pulling by. So now it's your turn. What is your single takeaway from today's live? Drop it in the comments. Let me know. And let me know what topics are of interest to you. Maybe we'll talk about those in December. Either way, let's grow stronger together.